Hey, it's Scott Bywater here, and I'm on a bit of an angle because I pulled my phone's flat, so I pushed I've got the charger on. But I wanted to do a very quick Facebook Live. Don't know if anyone will be listening at this time because it's almost 6 o'clock and it's just before Christmas. But I wanted to talk about something which I've been sort of thinking about a lot lately. I ran into a guy who is an ex-investment banker. And one of the things which he's really been teaching me, he said, listen, the challenge which most entrepreneurs have is that we tend to think short term, or they tend to think short term. Hey, Marianne, how are you? We tend to think short term. And what I mean by that is, a lot of entrepreneurs were always chasing, I guess, the cash. We're chasing the cash. So we need, and obviously we need to do that because if we look at, and I've been totally guilty of this over the years, but if we look at Maslow's hierarchy, the first thing that we're focusing on is we're focusing on, our survival needs. So that's a natural thing to do. But it also causes us to get stuck because if we're always focusing on the short-term stuff, the survival stuff, the stuff where, hey, we need money this month, etc., etc. So the cash flow stuff, which is really, really important. But the issue is, if you're doing that, you're not focusing on the big picture stuff. So what the key is there's a trade-off in my view, because I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately. There's a trade-off where we need to be focusing a certain amount of time on short term, but we also need to be focusing a certain amount of time on the long term stuff. So let's sort of give this an example. Let's say for an average entrepreneur, you might be like, hey, I need to jump on the phone and make some calls to bring in some sales, this week or this month or whatever. Hey, Robert, how are you? Good to connect with you on here. So we do that and we focus on that short-term stuff. But at the same time, we should be putting, and it will be different for each of us. So if you've got no real short-term cash flow needs, maybe you focus 80% long-term on the long game, on the big picture, on pulling things off on a long-term sort of basis. But on the flip side, if you're a business owner and you need to generate revenue like this week or next week or whatever, then you focus on the short-term side of things and you become very focused on let's do things short-term. So really the question is how to balance it out. So should it be, and working out what it is for you. So for you, should it be 50-50? Should it be 50% long-term, 50% short-term? Should it be 80% short-term, 20% long-term? Should it be 20% short-term, 80% long-term? An example of, I gave an example of a short-term strategy, which might be, hey, let's make phone calls this week to bring in revenue or whatever. A long-term strategy might be something like, in terms of content marketing or rebuilding your website and creating, 30 landing pages on your website. And if you look at some of the research which has been done, via HubSpot about having more landing pages on your website, it shows the more you have, the more specific you are with those landing pages, then the higher the conversion rate in terms of sales that you will get. So they've actually done studies on this sort of thing. But if you do that today, you probably won't get your sales in tomorrow. But the more long-term stuff you're doing, you're planting these seeds. You're planting a seed and you're putting a seed into the garden so that it generates those sales over that longer term period. But if we get stuck in the short term, if we follow almost our instincts, which is following our instincts and doing the short term stuff, because that's like, hey, that's like all the survival needs, then we stay in that short term sort of almost like that short-term trap if we get stuck in there. Because if you're always thinking short-term, you end up going, around and around and around in circles because you're not building that long game. So one of the things I did, when I first started my business is, I built up an email list. And by doing that, it didn't necessarily pay off in spades in the short term, but it did in the long term. And I can remember writing this report. This is way back when. And I wrote this report and I'm like, I'm thinking, oh, I'm wasting my time, but I wasn't, because then that report ended up going out to, tens of thousands of people over time, and it helped me win the long-term game. So that had a big impact. If you look at, let's say, networking, for example, you might go to a networking event. That wasn't, really a good use of my time. Maybe I could have done that. Maybe I could have done this. But if it was a good networking event, what it's doing is it's helping you win the long-term game, because you're connecting with people who might bring you opportunities 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 years down the track. So really have a think about that and ask it, and I'm asking this same question to myself, because what I like to share on these Facebook Live videos and when it comes to social media is the stuff that's going through my mind as I'm trying to grow as an entrepreneur myself. But have a think about that, because that's a question going through my mind at the moment. How much do I invest in short term? How much do I invest in long term? What's the breakup got to be in order for me to achieve my objective? And I'd encourage you, if that sits with you, if you listen to that and you go, hey, that's a good idea, it sits with me, I encourage you to look into doing the same. So anyway, I am off to the Wollongong markets for dinner. So I will sign out for now. And if you like this video, if you want to comment, if you got a question, just drop it in the comments box. Love to get your thoughts. All for now. Bye.